Next session is about building a living brand, a living, a breathing brand. Aaron Novoshan from the Culinary Edge, if you look at his credentials, may have invented the wrap. Impressive. Aaron and his team.
Vic, welcome everybody. Obviously we're running a little late today, and the only thing standing between you guys eating some good food from Market PR at White Grill is this upcoming session. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of the panelists and have them come up here. All right, there we go. First up, we have Raman Khanna. Please come on up. He's the COO and director at GRD, which is part of the Integral Food Services Group. He develops high-end concepts and brings internationally recognized concepts to Qatar. Here's several of the brands that the parent company is involved in. He's also a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America with honors, the most prestigious institution in America. So please welcome Raman Khanna. Next up, we have Jason Myers. Jason is the GM and Food and Beverage Director of Jumeirah Restaurants. Obviously, we've heard a lot about Jumeirah today, and some of the brands that he is involved in are listed on the slide here. And Jumeirah, of course, has hotels around the world, including Dubai, Maldives, Shanghai, Rome, Istanbul, and London. One interesting thing about Jason, he was featured as the #1 on Caterer Middle East Power List 50. Powerful man right there. Last year. Please welcome Jason.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Gaurav Sinha, who's the founder and CEO of Insignia Worldwide. Now, Insignia Worldwide is a leading brand communication and creative services agency dedicated to luxury, travel, and lifestyle brands. They're headquartered right here in Dubai. They have a PR division. They offer travel, hospitality, and lifestyle brands an international perspective in addressing brand communication. He also serves as the vice chairman of the Travel Attaché, which is an independent luxury travel company. Please welcome Gaurav Sinha.
Well done. Wrap up.
And last but not least, we have local Marcus Deslif. He's the co-founder of Whistle Hospitality, also based here in Dubai. Whistle is a full-service boutique hospitality company working with institutional and JV partner, developer of a number of their own proprietary brands, several of which are local here. He's got over 16 plus years in the international expertise in the field of hospitality. His famous Oko brand is one of the greatest ones here locally. So please welcome Marcus Deslif.
Hello, man.
So briefly, I invented the wrap. That's a strange one. Actually, flavored tortillas are the more claim to fame. They didn't exist before I went to a small tortilla factory in San Francisco and brought in a package of green pasta and spinach pasta and said, tortilla, pasta, tortilla, make it green. And they're like, pinche verde tortilla. Excuse me for my Spanish, but they're like, that's moldy. And I'm like, no, it's great. It's going to be the next big thing. And certainly enough, 20 years later, they're ubiquitous around the world, flavored tortillas. But a little bit about me and the Culinary Edge, very briefly. We're one of the leading brand and culinary development companies in America. We work primarily in the QSR through upscale casual dining, developing brands, and also helping brands, once they've come out of the blocks, to actually become profitable and evolve themselves and provide more products and services to the guests that they fulfill. So with that being said, let's sit down and talk about building a great brand. So we've got a lot of expertise here. We've got some heavy hitters. It's pretty exciting for me. We're talking about creating a brand that can scale globally, right? And there's a lot of brands that come here to Dubai, and there's a lot of brands that we're thinking about, exporting to other places in the world. So I'd love to keep it very simple in this thinking. So when you're thinking about creating a brand, a global brand, what are the key components of creating and nurturing a strong brand in the dining and hospitality space? What are 3 words? Let's just keep it really simple. What are 3 words to describe the way in which you can create and nurture a sustainable brand that can go global? And you can't use the words food, service, or atmosphere. Who wants to take that one on?
Multiply.
Multiply, please.
That's one. Can we multiply what we are creating or not? in order for it to be a brand and sustainable. And popularity.
I have a point of view on this. I think people choose restaurants the same way they choose brand or choose their friends, and you need common values in order to create a brand which has severe advocacy, whether it's in any part of the world. And you asked for 3 words. I have 6, unfortunately, and
Double trouble.
We have what I call the 6 S's of a good restaurant brand, which is service, substance, style, sustainability, story, and singularity.
You're only allowed 5 then, because service wasn't allowed.
So then you got 5. So singularity being key, and I think that's in principle what really defines sort of the authenticity and power of a good brand.
Great.
3 words. The business has to be sustainable, has to be scalable, and it has to be sticky.
I like that.
Elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, you need touch points. So you need, obviously, sustainable is obvious, scalable is obvious again, but you need something that's sticky. People need to come back to it. You need to have a reason. You need to be emotionally attached to the brand, to the concept. You need a couple of dishes, at least, that before you've even finished your meal, you're already dreaming about having it again. To go back to the previous panel, you're hitting Instagram, you're doing whatever you're doing with it. The concept has to be sticky, and it has to resonate with the people around it. So that at the end of the day, consumers have a lot of choice out there. And again, I said it yesterday, we're consumers. So you want to take something that you can relate to. So really, whether you are a fast food brand or you're super high-end, you need something you need to create a lifestyle brand. And to create a lifestyle brand, it needs to be sticky.
Excellent. What are your thoughts?
3 words, idea, blue ocean, and test. So I think Marcus was speaking yesterday about the success rate of new concepts. So I won't dwell on that positive note that we discussed. Idea, it's got to be an amazing idea in there. Blue ocean for me is testing, the strategy around blue ocean is can you create uncontested market space for your new idea, and then test it out. You think it's a great idea. You can see, there's a blue ocean, there is an uncontested market space for it. Is it too far out there? Can you test it? So those would be the 3 things that come off the top of my head.
Great. Well, let's talk about the creative process here, because, you're a lot of creative minds up here, and creative minds who have been successful in executing and scaling, which is the hard part. There's a lot of stuff can happen on paper. How do you begin identifying opportunity spaces? What is your process to really look at, do you have a process, or does it just come from within? What's your approach?
Well, first, if I may answer that.
Sure.
I go with my gut reaction to start with, and I always consider myself, at the end of the day, I'm a consumer. So if I like it, hopefully other people will like it. But I think a lot of people get on a process and they say, well, I have this idea, and let me get on the path and try to develop this idea, whatever it is. I'm not saying it wistful, but our approach is a little bit, we take a kind of a weird approach, and I think entrepreneurs in general, we're a bit freaky sometimes. So I don't know if you ever played that game when you were a kid, when it was like a labyrinth and you had a ball bearing and you had to kind of get around it with the way to cheat that process is you start in the middle and you work your way back out. So for us, we have an idea, we play and develop that idea internally, but at the end of the day, we move straight to the finished product and work our way backwards. And that way we absolutely know where we're going to end up.
Know what success looks like that
way.
Well,
yeah, we know what the product is going to be already, and therefore it's not we start here, we want to get up there. Actually, that is the product, and let's get down. So we dissect it and break it down, and then put it back together again.
Excellent.
See, I believe, I sort of agree with that. I think if you're an entrepreneur, you have to have a vision and you need to go ahead and sort of pursue that. As a brand marketeer who's sort of servicing the need of clients, we believe that great logic makes great magic. You have to have a good strategy in place in the beginning, and that sort of level of market intelligence work with regards to understanding where the gaps reside. These are very important components. As an agency, we also think that, we are like a mortal mirror. You look into the mirror and we tell you what the customer's needs are. I've never met a restaurateur or a hotelier who says that he doesn't have a good product. Everybody claims to to be very passionate about whatever they have. So I think from that standpoint, we believe that your consumer insight has to be very sound. And I think if you have that ideology first articulated, that's the beginning of a fantastic, passionate journey to develop a powerful brand. So you've got to have a purpose beyond a culinary proposition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. I mean, the way that we look at it, it's quite interesting in our business is, we operate 200 plus outlets worldwide. In there's probably 50 concepts that could be potentially scalable. And then how do you sit down and decide from that point, then which one of those could go on and potentially grow into, we're talking about starting with an idea, getting the concept, having maybe one or two, seeing how the market reacts to that. Do people like it as much as we think they're going to like it? So it's not getting too far ahead of yourself. It's having a look at where you are, then looking at how it's panning out, and then often most scalable restaurant businesses or bar businesses, if you look at it over the years, have probably grown by accident. And it's probably been by people power. A lot of the brands that I've worked on, because I've been standalone restaurants, and I've worked for Europe's biggest restaurant brand, actually grew out of a passion. It started as a 1 and 2, and it ended up where people in certain parts of the country would actually be asking, we need one of these in our town. And that's, it's in an evolution. I'm sure we're going to come on to it.
Most of my experience has been in this part of the world. And yes, you have ideas, but it all depends on who's investing. And a lot of times people in this part of the world, the investors have very set ideas. They travel a lot in the world. They come back and they come to you and say, I want you to create this thing for me. Then you have to make sure that, you bring that somewhere in the middle. What is realistic, scalable, and can then later be multiplied. That's what I was talking about. And that's the process where the creative process or your creativity has to really meet the whoever is financing this thing.
On that note, I think part of the problem actually is exactly what you explained. In this part of the world, like you said, you've got investors or you've got landlords or owners or partners who have a pretty good idea what they want. The difference is the concepts that work, they don't come from that background. They come from entrepreneurs, visionaries, idea people, and they've got to take that idea and they've got to be able to run with it. Sure, you need somebody holding the reins a little bit so the guys don't go crazy, but you need to be able to take that idea and develop it into something. The problem you're seeing is somebody's traveling and says, oh, I really like that Italian restaurant, and I like that thing over there, and I like that, and
Shiny
you know what?
syndrome.
Oh, it's just amazing. And my neighbor 2 doors down, he invested in a restaurant, and look, it looks like that. And then all of a sudden they're like, I want this, and I want it on Ymar Boulevard. And you're like, yeah, that's just not going to work.
So basically, when it comes down to whether the market needs that or not, it's not their concern.
Yeah, they don't care.
And so a lot of them don't even understand the need of a market feasibility. That just
Let's talk about the marketplace. And innovation is usually the result of a need, right? Some need is not being met. And therefore people think, I wish, fill in the blank. And then there's people who act on that often. What is the competition that you see looking in the global marketplace missing right now? And what do you see as the space of opportunity that you're going after today and trying to fulfill?
Global or regional?
I think it's a global conversation. It could be regional where it's happening, but maybe if you have some global aspects to it, to the way of thinking, please bring it.
Regionally, there's not a lot of creativity going on, to be honest with you. That's a big problem, at least as somebody coming out of Dubai, wanting to create, wanting to see more entrepreneurship, wanting to see more creativity here. There's none of that incubation really going on. I mean, take someone like Jason's company here. They are potentially in the driving seat to spearhead that for the whole region and take it out. But will they, as a corporate entity, will they give themselves to individuals to then push those brands out? It becomes a bit of a challenge because they've got their own set ways. If you look more globally... We will. I'll just answer it. We will, for sure. And that would be, that's amazing. We believe in it, 100% believe in it. And there's got to be more of that, for sure. We must open up the marketplace. And I think, in answer to the question, it's a really important point for the region. From somebody, I've only been here a couple of years, coming into it from European market, is we've got to have a much more competitive
innovative market space. And I think everybody realizes that. But I think that comes with the evolution and the development of Dubai or the Middle East as a destination F&B.
But it can't happen without people like you. I think you guys are in the driving seat to push that
I think
forward
it's
for all
people
of us, which is
like
good.
us, Mark, and I think it's also people, the property owners. And I think, Alice was speaking earlier about how that worked in Westfield and how they'd developed that and driven it through. Great news is the movement's happening here too. And the landlords now are partnering with people like ourselves, with the independents now, because they don't want all the same stuff. And I think Dubai's done an extraordinary job in bringing the brands, but actually it's the time now, and we feel massively passionate about creating this space for the market to open up, innovate and grow. And I just think we're going to see a floodgates of it soon.
I think the barrier is still pretty high for innovation here like that for entrepreneurs, as much as it is, if you look at policies, cost of opportunity, you consider all of these factors, you can't just pop up and open a shop in the side of the street and suddenly claim to be the blue bottle of San Francisco.
JV or partnerships, it's different. I agree, but I think there's more fluidity.
There's a trend.
It's coming. It's coming.
Great.
Sorry.
Please go for it.
In the end, we know where we are, but we know where we need to get there. And it's a process, and we have to go through the process. And like Jason rightly said, the process has started. So, we will get there.
And I mean, when we opened here, we were, again, using one of our brands, Oko. I mean, pretty much all of our brands that you see are our brands. And then we've got a couple of JV developments with other companies and what have you. But when we came in here as Oko, we had amazing blue chip brands. We had to go head to head with. We had Zuma, Nobu, you got Buddha Bar. I mean, these guys aren't just brands. These are the super brands in the category. And then, I'm not saying we're just a bunch of monkeys, but we pretty much were a bunch of monkeys coming out here saying, all right, let's try to compete with these amazing big brands. But we've got to be different, because otherwise we're just another Me Too, which I think takes us back to your original question, is looking at a global scale. We feel, and the feedback we're having, take something like Oko again, we feel that it can become the next big super brand. We feel Claw can do the same in its category. And it goes back to what I was saying yesterday. It's doing good food. Yeah, that's just a given now. If you don't come to the table and kick butt with amazing food, don't come to the table. Don't even try to play, because it's not going to get anywhere. You then have to put the entertainment, the conceptual. You have to give the stickiness. You have to get people to buy in, the emotional connectedness. And then at the end of the day, what do you come back to, which I think is going to be for you? What do you come back to? We're creating lifestyle brands, and it just happens to be in restaurants and hospitality. But it could just as well be, we could be creating an airline or whatever else, because you know what? Emirates did that already. Jameer have done the hotels. So it's become lifestyle brands.
And I think this is really, just to add to that, I think this is really important. In the last 10 years, like having worked for ourselves, we can tell you from our clients, we've learned a couple of, home truths. One, great hoteliers don't necessarily make great restaurateurs. And the other way around, you don't see restaurateurs opening hotels. But the same, I think, Jason, that's obviously, as you said, is being corrected with new leases coming on board, where you're allowing entrepreneurs to come on board and take spaces and evolve so that it creates more depth and relevance for a destination. At the same time, one of the things I always admire restaurateurs, because they're really brave people, because I believe there's also limited or no loyalty in F&B. So this is another big concern that we always try and leapfrog, is try and see how you can retain your relevance and make sure that you can, I think restaurants need to be transformative spaces.
You have to reinvent yourself
you
all
have
the
to
time.
perpetually look at re-engaging and innovating while remaining true to your essence. So for entrepreneurs and restaurant owners alike and operators, it's a bit like walking a tight wire, like high wire, because you're perpetually trying to balance how to appease new trends and keep up with what's happening in the marketplace. And that's, where the three tenets of great restaurant brands: they are socially intelligent, they're emotionally responsive, and they're creatively compelling. So I think these are very important sort of pillars.
And also the evolution of Dubai as a market. I mean, going back pre-2008, 2009, that's where people went. They went to the hotels, and at that time, the guys were actually innovating and creating some of the concepts going back. We remember on my first tour, if you like, to the region. There was some really good stuff. And then I think Mark Patton was talking about it earlier from Atlantis, about how they've had to diversify their offer, and they've brought some interesting and innovated a few, the burger concept, their Asian concept, and I think, and it's not just these guys. I mean, we're sat in a hotel here who've got some genuine standalone restaurant offers. So I think it's it's about the focus for me. It's about the innovation. It's around that standalone mentality, and I think with that, I think we'll see the hotel businesses going more that way, and I think we'll develop more.
What's interesting with that is, just looking back, because when we came here, when I started visiting Dubai and before, we actually created Oku here. What was interesting is, as Oku opened up in that sort of year of 2008, 2009, 2010, leading up to 2008, and just before the recession, as you know, every hotel was full, and by definition, every restaurant was full, right? You didn't have to do anything. So it was a free-for-all, and everybody's, you know, I'm not saying anything, but people were gorging themselves, essentially, on the customer base. The recession hit, and now, pretty much, there were probably 5 or 8 of us that came through it pretty strong. Most of us were independents, or pretty much all of us were independents coming through that, from Le Petit Maison to Zuma, and so on. And we came through. But what's interesting and what's happened is, as the hoteliers lost the customers that they were used to having for no reason, and now they have these F&B operations internally. Well, anywhere else in the world you go and you say, listen, I want to go try this restaurant or that restaurant, the concierge or whoever else will send you to where they think is best. In Dubai, that doesn't happen. So we've had a number of conversations with concierges in a lot of the hotels where they're like, listen, we have strict instructions from the GMs. First of all, you can't talk to us. And second of all, we cannot send people to restaurants outside of the hotel. You got to stay in here. That doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. But that's what's going on right now.
It's tough to build trust that way. It's so obvious.
But it's happening really heavily for the last 24 months in Dubai. It's probably in the last 3 or 4 months, it's picked up quite a bit from the 2020 announcements. But really, the hotel GMs are really.
And I think this leads to the conversation about marketing and dialogue. I think this is why social media, your engagement as a brand, is very important. Whether you see, we've got 2 or 3 distinct type of restaurant concepts. You've got the faceless giants, where you don't know who owns and operates it. You don't know, you're following its tribal consumption. People go in tribes because everybody's going, and then there's what we call the once-only gang, who have to do it once so they can tick a box and they'll never go back again. So when you look at the psychographic patterns, you've got these faceless giants, and then you've got the sort of the celebrity phenomena. They go because the chef is meant to be renowned, even though he might be in a completely different country, but you're experiencing that dining experience, and it's nowhere close to what it's meant to be. And then, where are the outliers in innovation here? There aren't many. Where is the mom and pop shop, which happens in San Francisco, Melbourne, or Sydney, or London, where you see that innovation happening? We tried to launch and we are trying to conceive as a company, a sort of pop-up concept, a pop-up restaurant, not really necessarily to own ourselves, but to introduce to clients such as Jason an opportunity to bring people in on a Tuesday, make them do something flamboyant, showcase the product, then take them somewhere else. And we're trying to create these, but because we are handcuffed also to large hotels, because you can't get the glass of wine, you can't deliver the complete experience, you can't do it in Deira by Al Nasser Square, where the heart and pulse of great Syrian food resides. You can't have that happening if you wanted to take it to a gourmet experience.
Sure. Well, there is, you see, another problem is that a lot of the ethnic food from this area is stuck in basically hundreds of years back. It hasn't changed. Food from Levant, it's slowly changing. Here, when you see everything is in the mall, the hummus is the hummus, but nobody has done anything with that. And that's what needs to happen, because all the other, no disrespect to any of the Western or Asian cuisines, you have enough of those here. Okay? You need to create. Now, people keep talking about Emirati food or local Khaliji food and everything, but nobody has taken that and bring it into to the next level where the people from outside this area will go and try that food. If we do that, that's something we can take out.
I think Just Falafel's trying to push that through right now.
They haven't done so bad.
I worked on a Khaliji concept, which is in the formative stage, and in Qatar for the museum, one of the museums, and they asked me to develop Qatari food concept, which is basically similar to the Emirati food concept, but presented in a modern way. And that's something I believe has legs and it'll go a long ways.
I think Silvana, who's here, I think today, she's working on taking that. And it's interesting that you're taking a European outsider to come in here, to take the food, to redefine it and package it back out again. Which is actually, if you look at it, even modern Japanese or whatever else, it's interesting. It's the foreigner that comes in,
fresh
is
eyes.
able to, is able to interpret it differently.
The problem there is that, you see, when you ask the Emiratis, or for that matter in the GCC, marguga is a marguga, but they don't want that their dish to change in terms of presentation. But when you present the same to a European or somebody who's coming from outside, they obviously they're not very fond of that. So we need to bring it to that level.
Sure. I want to, we're post 2 o'clock, pushing 2:10, and I'm sure everyone is hungry. And these folks are going to be around after this. And I want to be respectful to everyone here. And I want to do a very, very quick fire. It's hard to get to know people. And I find that we do something, and when I lead panels, I like to do something called 10 rapid fire questions. I'm going to ask 10 questions. There'll be two things. You just have to answer one or the other. So the first one is simple. And just right down the line, very rapid. So bourbon or scotch?
Neither.
Neither.
Bourbon, Scotch, bourbon.
Just say both.
Scotch.
Facebook or Twitter?
Facebook.
Twitter.
Twitter.
Facebook.
London or Istanbul?
London.
London.
Istanbul.
London.
Sushi or ceviche?
Sushi.
Sushi.
Ceviche.
Ceviche.
Justin Timberlake or Jay-Z?
What? Jay-Z, there you go.
I guess it's got to be Jay-Z.
Jay-Z every time.
At least he didn't say Justin Bieber.
Japanese knives or German knives?
Jap.
Japanese.
German.
Japanese.
Sailing or yachting?
Yachting.
Yachting.
Sailing.
Sailing.
Machu Picchu or Everest?
I'll start with Kilimanjaro. Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu.
Everest.
Everest.
Central Park or Hyde Park?
Central.
Hyde Park.
Central.
Central.
Sleep naked or pajamas?
I'm sorry. Very simple. Who's with me? Yeah. Naked.
Neither.
Sleep naked or...
I don't sleep.
I'm married.
He wears his suit to bed.
Spare room.
So am I.
All right, on that note,
Wonderful.
I'm going to let us bring it home to lunch. You'll be able to ask questions of the group when we break out. And I want to say thank you all, and please thanks
Great.
to our...
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
That was fun.
Yeah. Sure, nice to meet you.